So, I just finished watching Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 2. This will be a spoiler discussion. This episode was so mid to me. I don't know if it was me, okay, and I just wasn't in, like, the mood to watch it, or it just didn't connect for me from the beginning. But this whole episode, I was just, like, bored. You know, nothing interesting happened. Literally, the most interesting part of this episode was the very beginning, where, Rick Flag Sr., he gets the Peacemaker file about how Peacemaker killed Rick Flag Jr. That was the most interesting part of this episode for me. Everything else, it just did not hit for me. I don't know why. But hopefully everyone else enjoyed it. I did glance at the Reddit thread for this episode, and it seems like people enjoyed it, I guess. But yeah, I was just like, nothing's happening, bro. Like, by the end of the episode, literally no one had character progression from the end of the last episode to the end of this episode. It just wasn't very entertaining to me. Maybe they have, and I just haven't really thought it through, but yeah, let's go through my notes. Yes, as I said before, we finally get the flashback of Rick Flag Sr. finding out that Peacemaker killed Rick Flag Jr. This is like an inevitable conflict, and I think it's the most interesting conflict of Peacemaker Season 2 so far. I don't really care too much about the whole parallel Earth, like, oh my god, this is like the best Earth in my dream life or whatever. I don't really care about it that much. I think this Rick Flag conflict is way more interesting, but to each their own. We got a Gotham City name drop. Cool, I guess. That's the first time I've ever heard of anyone wanting to move to Gotham out of their own decision, but okay then. Actually, wait, no, that's a lie. Because in the Supergirl episode, when Superman first appears, there's like a family that says, we're moving back to Gotham after there's like explosions and shit.
That was awesome.
We're moving back to Gotham.
That was such a deep pull. My god, let's move on. So Peacemaker and Vigilante Adrian, they they just chop up the doppelganger. Cool. Okay, so we have Tim Meadows. I had to look up the actor's name because apparently he's like a super famous comedian from SNL, and I don't really watch SNL because SNL is not really that popular in Australia, so I don't really have any, bias towards him or anything. So I preface by saying that because I did not find him funny at all. I know he's like a legend in the comedy space and he's like a really famous actor, but holy shit, none of his jokes landed for me. Not one of them. I don't know if it was because of his delivery or because of the writing or because of the directing or even the editing maybe, with how like the timing was between each line and the dialogue between everyone. Dude, I was like, this is not funny to me. I'm sorry, this is not funny. There was so many moments like that. Like, it seems like they try to do like this Tarantino dialogue thing where, people just talk about random shit, that doesn't really relate to the story, but it's meant to be interesting and stuff. Like when Pulp Fiction, they talk about what's a quarter pounder with cheese called in France or whatever, or something, and it's a Royale with cheese or whatever. I really butchered that. But anyways, yeah, it seems like they try to do that kind of thing where it's like, oh, interesting and introspective dialogue that's like really fun to listen to. It's like ear candy, but to me, they try to do that multiple times in this episode, and I was just like, dude, this is not funny. All of this dialogue is like so predictable. Oh my god. Like that whole bit about bringing like a housewarming gift, I'm sure lots of people found that funny, but to me, I was like, this is dragging on for way too long. Like, I get it, right? I get it. James Gunn probably like had this one thought one time a few years back, and he was like, this is something I want to say to the public. And it wasn't funny to me, I'm sorry. And I'm sure people are gonna love the Pokemon bit, like the plural Pokemon isn't Pokemon, it's Pokemon, or whatever. Not funny to me. The whole bird blindness thing, I was like, this is too random to mention, and I said that it's gonna come back in some way, and it did, because he calls Eagly a duck, get it? Because he can't tell the difference between birds. I saw one of the Reddit comments I saw on that discussion thing. It was like, I've never laughed so hard in my life when he said a duck attacked me. Are you serious? That was like the most predictable setup and punchline ever. How does that make you die of laughter? Speaking of Eagly, him popping out that eye, holy shit, that was brutal. I did not expect that, but that was sick. That was sick. It just seems like a lot of things just were so unpolished. I'm not sure what it is. There's like this one bit where they're all on the rooftop doing that party thing, right? Peacemaker and Harcourt, they're talking, they're having like this intimate dialogue, and then they cut to, what's her name? Adebayo? Yeah, Adebayo. Or Adebayo, I don't know. Her and Economos, they're talking, and you see John Cena and Harcourt in the background. Like, this is one shot after the other. And then suddenly, Adrian's with them in the background. It's such an obvious continuity break. And I'm just thinking, there's clearly like a lack of care being put in to these episodes. Maybe season 1 was like the same way, and I just didn't notice it. But I just feel like everything... I noticed it in the first episode as well. I mentioned it in my discussion, but so many things I'm just like, some things just need like another pass of editing before it goes through the next stage, because there are so many little things that it just feels unpolished or unreviewed, and I don't know, man. Oh yeah, speaking of bits that didn't make me laugh, when Adrian throws the beer bottle, the Bud Light beer bottle, yeah, definitely not sponsored, he throws it at Economos and Economos misses it, and then he throws it again, he misses again. I'm like, my god, that was like the most predictable sequence of punchlines I've ever seen from James Gunn. Like, what the hell? Am I going crazy? And the way that bottle scene was framed, it was just so awkward, wasn't it? Like, all three of them full length, like the entire bodies all featured in that one shot. And the timing just felt so weird. I don't know if it's because of the editing or the directing, but it just wasn't being funny to me. It just, I don't know, like I can see it on paper, it being funny, but it just wasn't. It was just so predictably unfunny, because you can tell what was gonna happen next. I don't know, man. There's a bit when Peacemaker goes through alternate doppelganger's phone, the contact list. I'm sure there's some Easter eggs there. I did not bother to pause and go through. There's probably like, oh my god, this is a villain from the 70s and his real name is in there. What? Crazy. And then Peacemaker ends up going to the doppelganger world, and he's like, whoa, the message sent through. And Harcourt, alternate Harcourt's like broken heart emoji. Wow. And the credit scene, yeah, 100% improv. Could 100% tell that they were just rolling the camera, and you know, I give that a bit of leeway because it was just the credit scene, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, nothing happened in this episode. I don't think anything happened in this episode. Like, did any character change from beginning to end? Has there been any more setup for story that we didn't get in the first episode, apart from Rick Flag Sr. in the introduction of Tim Meadows' character, whose character I'm not a fan of. I had a rough time with this one. Okay, it wasn't rough. It was just like, I just kept clocking out, and I was like, dude, what are with these Tarantino bits that are trying to be like Tarantino, but it's just not, it's just wasting time, and it's not that introspective or funny or interesting. Who gives a shit about housewarming, okay? Like that should have been like a 2-line joke, you know? It didn't have to be this whole thing. And the way they cut between the... Sorry, I just keep ranting. But with the way they cut between the 4 Argus soldiers in that van when they're talking about the housewarming gifts, it was super weird. Like how the angle... Like, I feel like they were breaking the line. If you're into filmmaking, you know what I mean. But they kept breaking the line, and the angles were super confusing. The 180 rule, that's what it's called. Yeah, they kept breaking that, and I was like, this is so, like, it felt super, I'm sorry to say this, it felt really amateur to me. And no, I'm not saying I can do any better, okay? But I just, man, I hope the next episode's better. Even, like, the first episode, I just didn't find, like, that interesting, you know, as I said in my first episode review, but You know, I saw James Gunn talk about how the last 3 episodes of the season are like absolute bangers and everyone's gonna be talking about it. Oh my god, Superman's probably gonna appear. Yeah, that's my review of Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 2. I'm gonna give this 4.5 out of 10. Might sound a bit harsh, but I consider 5 the average. So I think this was just like a bit below my average TV experience. And to be fair, I am a bit selective with my TV selection. You know, maybe there's a bias there. You know, a bit of a high standard, little picky action. But that's my honest thoughts. Let me know what you thought about the episode. It's totally fine if you enjoyed it. I'm ready to be the minority in this one.